What is up? Noah Kagan here. I was number 30 at Facebook, number 4 at Mint.com, and I'm the founder of AppSumo.com, which is the #1 site online for software deals. It's an 8-figure business. Go check it out. Today I'm going to talk to you about why I walked out on Tony Robbins. Now picture this. You walk into this stadium. Picture that. 14,000 people. It's like a rock concert. Tony, Tony. And it's literally, there's fireworks, there's lights, there's music. He comes out with like staffs and stuff like that. It is insane. And 7 hours later, I walked out. So I want to share today about my experience. And so before I get into my experience, I just got to preface it with some stuff. I got some disclaimers, so you might want to just stay tuned for it, but I think the disclaimers are just as important. And so I'm not here to criticize Tony Robbins. You might come here and be like, you hate Tony Robbins more than anyone. I don't. I actually have liked a lot of his material. I've enjoyed a lot of his books, and he's helped a lot of people. I think one of the things with self-help and gurus and those, there's different flavors for different people. You might like different, I like tacos, you might like a different dish. So whatever works for different people is what I'm about. So I have a lot of respect for that. He has impacted and has helped a lot of people. Next, I'm not better than you. I know you might thinking, oh, you're Noah, you're better, you're balder, you're shorter, smaller, whatever it is. I'm not. I have a lot of tough times just like everyone else. I'm not better than anyone else. I have depression, I have tough work stuff, I get rejected a lot. I even published a book about how I got fired by Facebook, which was, probably depressed and embarrassed for about 6 to 12 months of my life, if not longer. Next up is I put in the work, right? If you go to Tony Robbins or any of these things, just as a disclaimer, if it was already easy, you wouldn't go there. You're going to a seminar, you're going to read a book, you're going to a retreat to fix something. And so you have to be willing to put in the work, because if you're not putting the work, you're not going to get any of the results. So I have put in the work in terms of health, in terms of fitness, but that stuff never ends, and you've got to keep going with it. And so I'm just going to share with you, like, I have put in the work to do these things, and I did put in the work to do my best to stay at Tony Robbins. And next up, I have gone to a bunch of seminars. I went to David Data's sex workshop because I was in a sex funk. That was awkward, and maybe talk about that another time. That was really interesting. Next up, I went to Gail Hendricks' Big Leap. I highly recommend that book. And that was an amazing workshop about love and energy and taking big leaps in your life. And I've always also put on conferences at AppSumo and Community Next, so I have a little bit of experience on what it's like to actually host and have people at a conference. And so this article is not a fear-driven one. I don't even know what that means, but it's like, I wasn't afraid. I was like nervous, just like anyone else would be. If you've never been to a Tony Robbins thing, I was like, let me just see what this is like. I've tried a bunch of things out. I'm just going to be open-minded. And I even went by myself. There was other friends going, and I was like, Noah, you're going to sit alone and experience this by yourself and go in by yourself. And Tony's also a customer. He's been a customer of Sumo.com, our email capture and marketing tool. And so I have no incentive to actually criticize him. And I think people should check out Tony, and everyone should make their own decisions. So in other words, I'm not hating on Tony Robbins. I love the dude. He's tall. Call me Tony. But I'm just sharing that for me, this specific event didn't work out. So you got to imagine, like, if 14,000 people, and let me go into the event, 14,000 people, 14,000 needs. Like, think about your own needs while you're watching this. Like, you have a very specific need. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's your weight. Maybe it's a family thing. Maybe it's a daddy thing. Maybe it's a doggy thing, John Ross. Whatever it is, you might have something, and it's very hard for one man to cure all that in 3 days and a few hours per day, right? He is superhuman, and he is a rock star, and there is something there where he is getting you out of your comfort zone to make a change in your life. Because if the change was easy, you wouldn't be there. And if change was easy, we would already have done it already. So the two things for me, the reason I went to the Tony Robbins thing is, number one, I was not happy in relationships. And it's something I think I'm always going to be working on. It's probably a lot of us are always working on how to make that better, specifically romantically. And secondly, I just wasn't feeling good at work. I didn't enjoy work. Only now making these videos and sharing my stories with you guys and girls fucking fires me up and fulfills me. And it's challenging. And I was like tired, but I'm like doing this video and I'm sharing these things about Tony, and it's making me so excited. And so for me, before I went to the Tony Robbins thing, I was like, those are two things that I'd love to get fixed. And imagine that. Those are gigantic things. How long, is that something you guys are trying to solve? Yeah, and it doesn't solve easy. So before I went, I talked to a lot of people about Tony Robbins, and I was like, oh man, this is great. And they're like, Tony was epic, it changed my life, I've went a few times, I can't believe it. Nick Gray, you know I'm talking about you. And so I went in with really high expectations. But I also went in with like an open mindset, because look, you never know how you're gonna learn. I've learned from my 15-year-old cousin, learned from books, I learned from me at the gym. You never know where you're gonna learn something new. And so I met this person who was standing next to me when I first got there, and he was a Jehovah's Witness, and he was like, this cost me a lot of money, I'm very nervous to do this, and you kind of share why you're there. And so then the concert starts. It really is a concert. It's not a normal experience. But I think the thing he does that is he wants you out of your element. He's like, this is the path you've been on that you're going to. I'm going to take you out of it just a little bit. And so he comes on stage and people go buck wild. And a lot of people that you talk to that love Tony Robbins, here's what they say. I went to Tony Robbins because I want to see how he does it. That's what they all say. So, and it's damn good. It's an amazing performance. So one, it's cold in there. Two, he has lights. The music is crazy. He has a lot of interaction between you and him, chanting, hoo, he, ah, boo. He encourages you to connect with other people. So I think there are a lot of really amazing elements of how to host an event. He keeps participation super high all the time. You're encouraged to meet a lot of your neighbors and talk to them. He makes you promise, like, hey, do you promise if I challenge you that you're going to do the things I'm telling you? Yes. And he's a great storyteller. A little bit too much of a name dropper for me. He's like, you know, I was on the toilet with Clinton in my private jet. And I was like, does that help? I have a Miata, okay? I love my Miata. But it didn't really add to the situation. I don't think he needed to do that. And then I think he was very repetitive, because I think repetition is the best way to actually start learning things you want to learn. You need to actually hear it in different ways and in different times. And so I think Tony had really good intentions, and he has you write down a lot of stuff. I think the more that you write things down, the more you're planning for things, the more you're likely actually to get them. And there's a lot of these are tough questions. It's not going to be easy stuff. If it was easy, you wouldn't go to this stuff. I do think some of his other events might be better if they're more specific. So like, here's one for a business that's making this much money. And so here's some of the things why I walked out after 7 hours. So I said, look, let's stay here as long as possible. I planned on staying the whole weekend. I want to do the fire walk. Have you heard about it? There's a fire walk right at the end, and I wanted to stick to that. But after 7 hours, I was like, I think there's other ways I can get to the goals of my work and my romantic relationship, which is what I ended up doing, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, when I left the event. And so he kind of was talking about a lot of different things. So he's saying, like, you can get anything you want. You just focus. I was like, okay. And then one guy, he said, stand up. What's wrong? I'm having a bad relationship. All right, fixed. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it felt a little bit superficial that he could fix this guy's family issues immediately in a few seconds. It almost felt like one of those baptisms you see on movies. I wasn't really sure about that. Next up, other thing that I thought was a little bit weird, here's some of the key things. He kind of is selling his supplement products towards the end of the first day, and then he said, we're gonna have a whole day about nutrition. And so I agree, nutrition's critical. I can't be alive if I have no nutrition and I don't have diet and health. But it was just like, how does this relate to unleashing the power within? And I almost would have been focused on, like, I don't need to buy your supplements. I don't want to buy your smoothies or your blenders. I just want you to talk about unleashing the power within, focusing on the hard things internally for me that I need to focus on. I talked about the name bragging, the clap thing. If you haven't seen his clap, go check it out on YouTube somewhere. I'm sure in the auto videos there's this clap thing that he loves doing. It's weird as hell. A few other things that I thought were a bit strange. He makes you touch a lot of your neighbors. And look, I don't know, this whole coronavirus thing that happened recently, no one's touching, which is good, but it was like excessively like massaging other people, and maybe that's what I actually need to work on, is I need to be more comfortable touching random people. But I don't think that I needed to get out of my comfort zone around that stuff to actually feel a lot better. I think some of the questions in his books he gave were decent, but overall it was like jump up, sit down, get inspired, sing a song, sit down. And so I think that stuff was good, and maybe day 2 or 3 got a lot deeper, but after 7 hours of up and down, I started thinking, like, maybe there's other things I can do to actually start working on this stuff. And I talk about this guy, he's like, all right, this guy's fixed. Like, I just think these things take more time. And so with 14,000 things, I think the ultimate thing for you, try this out or go and do some of this stuff and see if it really makes an impact. Because you can't save John, the guy who stood up and Tony cured him instantly, because he's like, John, you're cured. That's just not possible. With some light role playing, that's just not possible. I wanted people to go deeper. I wanted it to be harder. I wanted it to be challenged. And it just didn't end up being that for a lot of the entire event. There's different things about appreciation, love, joy, good stuff, right? But you can watch some YouTubes or maybe check them out on Netflix and really think about how this makes a difference for you. So there is some great takeaways that I do want to highlight that happened at the event, even though a lot of it felt fluffy and very shallow to me. And I don't mean that in a mean way, because I did take something from it. So some of it was like, take some time each week to work on yourself. I thought that was great. Number 2, what are you scared of right now? That's awesome. What are you afraid of? This video? Number 3, this was a great one. Success without a fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And that was probably, if anything, I kind of forgot about it, but that is probably, if anything, one of the biggest takeaways I got from it. I think even in leaving something, you're going to get something. And what I've realized about spending money at conferences, so I spent a few thousand at this, and I've traveled for it, and I did ask for a refund. I'll tell you, they did give it, and they were great about it. But when you spend a lot of money in an event, you generally figure a way to justify it. Have you ever noticed that? I noticed that. I noticed I'm like $2,000. I'm like, how do I get at least $2,001 in value out of this? But I love the point, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And that's a really good point. So like, even if you make a lot of money, but you don't have fulfillment, that's why it sucks. It doesn't matter. And so I believe that same thing with happiness. Like, if you don't have fulfillment, I don't care about happiness. I want it to be fulfilled, because fulfillment includes challenges. Fulfillment includes suffering. Fulfillment includes a reward that matters. Damn, that was good. So look at things that appreciate you. Modeling is valuable. What's a goal that excites you? What are distractions holding you back from the goals? Remove them. I think one of the things that I learned from it that was helpful was like figure out your calendar. Figure out your calendar. So what is the calendar that you want it to look like? But I was talking with Tom Billy, who's got an amazing YouTube channel. I would definitely check him out. Is that you got to think about a reward that matters the most to you, and then what are the things that you need to do to get that reward? And that will make the suffering and the challenges worth it. And so exploring it, one of the things I've done is a fantasy 2020 list, which was, all right, what are all the things I want to do this year? Just think about that for yourself. And then say, all right, now that's some of my vision, that's some of my goals, that's some of my reward. Now what do I need to do to go get that stuff? You know, some of this stuff, it just felt like Instagram memes that we can make fun of. And you can check it out on okdork.com and look up the Tony Robbins article. But it's like, success is how much uncertainty you can deal with. And it's like, yo, I can get these quotes all day long, but what about my working on my actual problems? That's what I wanted. That's what you want if you're interested in checking out Tony Robbins, or maybe some other guru or some other way that you're going to get those results. Your worst day can be your best day. You know, one of the things I would say about this coronavirus stuff that I've really resonated with is don't let the quarantine go to waste. So I've taken that advantage and taken that initiative to say, I'm going to make content. I'm going to work on our products. I'm going to go help people one-on-one. I'm going to go do those things so that I can actually say, I didn't let the quarantine go to waste. Have hunger that's insatiable. Whatever. That's just stuff that hit me. You know, I was dreading, man. I was just like towards the end of the hours and I was just like looking around. And some people are liking it, and that's great for them. There's 14,000 different opinions and preferences. But I was like, holy shit, I'm going to have 3 more days. Like, that alone seems like a worst nightmare for me. Like, I did this ayahuasca thing, and a lot of white people are doing it, and maybe it's over now. I'm not even sure if it's cool. But the thing with ayahuasca I thought was most interesting that my buddy Adam said was, it wasn't ayahuasca and how mentally and psychedelic and all that shit. It was that I lasted 3 days of it, because you do it 3 days in a row, and that is fucking hard. So maybe that's the point of Tony's. Like, if you can do 3 shitty days of listening to his stuff, maybe it will give you something. But for me, after about 7 hours, I just couldn't do it. I definitely felt embarrassed. They definitely didn't make me feel bad or go do a lot of forms or do a lot of stuff when I was exiting. And look, check it out for yourself. Or maybe do something smaller and see how it feels. But I actually felt like empowered personally. I said, look, I didn't enjoy this experience for myself. It's not about anybody else, but for myself. And so I'm going to do something about it. And that made me feel stronger in those situations that like, all right, what do I want in my romantic relationships? What do I want in my work relationships? One of the things I've been really noodling on, and I don't know if you guys have been thinking about this, I think we all know the truth. We know the truth in our romantic, but we want to like, that's our heart and our gut, but our brain is like, no, I've got to convince you otherwise. I've got to trick you otherwise into these things. You know what I'm saying? So instead of just leaving and saying, Tony is bad, and this is not good, and all this other stuff, I said, how do I make my own self-improvement day? Right? So what I ended up doing is I called it a PDP, or PDD, it's a personal development day, personal development person, PDD. And so I ended up saying, well, what do I really want to work on? Is I want to think about my personal and professional growth and my work. Like, what stuff have I always enjoyed? I've always enjoyed making these videos for you. You know I have. I made these videos for you. I love you. So I've enjoyed making these videos for you. I've enjoyed promoting products. That's what we do at AppSumo and Haul Drop, or giving people the tools like SendFox or King Sumo. And so I was like, let me just reflect on that. I did a 90-minute personal development discussion with a friend. I recorded it. Ate a healthy lunch. I reviewed some of Tony's material and other books and material he's put out there to see if there was any questions that would help me dive deeper into myself and work on some of the harder problems. Read a book. I did a 60-minute mastermind, so I met with other people to talk about different relationship things, personal things, challenging things, and then I got a massage. You got to recharge. Make sure you plug in your body. And so I think ultimately with a lot of that stuff, what are the questions you want answered? And are you dedicating the time, including myself, to go and focusing on them? That's really what it's going to be. Tony and all the books and all the YouTube videos and all the seminars, they don't have any secret answers. That's the part that sucks. I'm always looking for them too. But at the end of the day, it's work. It's looking inside. It's going into some of the fear that we have and putting in the work to finally say, all right, well, what do I really want? And most of us know what we want. No, most of us know what we want. Yes, we do. And it's just having it's having the courage. And courage is doing something you're afraid of. I learned that in ayahuasca, and I still have to work on my courage and go into things I'm afraid of. But it's saying, what are the questions that I need answered? What do I truly believe in? And how do I really go for that? And Tony has great intentions. I have nothing here to criticize Tony. I think he's got an amazing message for a lot of people. I think he impacts a lot of people. And today, for me, I'm not care how people get impacted. I just want that impacted and living a fulfilled life. I want to live my own fulfilled life just as well and share the things that I'm learning and experiencing in this journey. So Tony might change your life. And I think you guys should check out Tony Robbins or other people in other areas. Maybe it's finance, maybe it's business, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's acro yoga, maybe it's cooking, whatever the hell it is. But I think there's a difference is that what is going to be sustaining and long lasting for you. So I'm not sure I would go to another Tony's event unless it was more specific. Like, how do you take your 8-figure business to 9-figure business? And for him, it would be buy this other course. And let me tell you about my private jet. But I think for Tony's events, what I would recommend, because I think it's easy to criticize. One thing is that for anybody who's for putting on an event, it's easy to be a peanut gallery person. It's easy to sit on the couch and watch a YouTube video. It's hard to go do the work. So I would say for him, I would connect more people in these events, because I think that's really helpful. Because a lot of times at a conference, it's really the people you meet. And if people are going to a Tony Robbins thing, either they're looking to improve themselves, which is probably why you're going. So it's a great person to connect with. Number two, I don't think, what's the proper length of a seminar or a conference? It's as long as it takes to get the right thing across. So it could be a tweet, it could be an article, it could be a day, it could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a life. And so for me, I didn't need the dancing and the hoopla and the fluff, but I think you need some of that or some combination of that to get me out of my comfort zone, right? But give me the meat or vegan meat, Beyond Meat, whatever you're doing. But don't do it every 20 minutes. Just let's go into it and let's dive deeper into some of this stuff. And then I think focus. I think with the seminar of 14,000 people, dude, that's tough, man. Big ups to Tony. But 14,000 people, oy vey, right? So I think it's, especially in the beginning, hey, we're going to have this conference specifically around work, specifically around relationships, specifically around focus, specifically around money. Because it did feel strange that he's got a money book and a health book and a nutrition book and a relationship book. It's like, well, what are you the best at if you're trying to do everything? And so I think a focus would be really helpful. And I'm going to end it with what my buddy Tynan said. You got to check out Tynan.com. I love this guy. But he said, if you never quit, you probably aren't trying enough new things. So get out there, check out Tony, check out yourself, and live a fulfilled life. I love you guys.